Hello, welcome one more time. Once again, welcome back to Maybe We Will Fire and Blood, a podcast that is sort of about Game of Thrones and also has a very awkward title that I'm only now becoming aware of. I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess I was aware of it, but I just maybe this is probably not because someone pointed out to me last week that I do incorrect things on purpose. Because I think it's funny, which I do. And also, this person was not specifically calling me out on this aspect of it, but what it caused me to think about was that I do may do things incorrectly and make mistakes on purpose that I think are funny, but also because when I really do fuck up, people may not notice as much because they expect me to be doing stupid shit on purpose. We all do some little weird kind of shit like that, right? Or do we just, it's not like, subconsciously. I mean, it is subconsciously. I mean, where were we exactly? That's not exactly wow. Okay, so welcome to a podcast and mainly, this is the podcast that I don't edit. This is the podcast where I hit record and I usually talk to a guest and I say a bunch of things and I put it on the internet and maybe I'll listen to it. And I kind of have been lately because this is also a podcast. This is becoming a podcast. It sort of always was. This is a sister podcast. But it's sort of about the process of learning amateur audio engineering and also maybe just speaking in a coherent fashion to explain something in a listed order and make a presentation make sense, or a conversation / interview / maybe some kind of narrative. We've had very light narrative going on around here so far. This was other podcasts in the past. Now it's just, this happens to be the one, as I was saying, that I just record something and upload it to. So here we are. That's what this is. I'm Dave. I was considering that maybe I should have some kind of keyword. Why does it keep being keyword? That's how as we monetize everything we are doing and as our lives become content. I'm thinking, I guess what the fuck do you call it? A moniker, a pseudonym, a screen name? I was thinking that if I started some kind of art project or something and started another Etsy shop and just call it something. But when I think of that, I think of keyword in my head, and something about that feels hopelessly corporate. I got to think of a new keyword, the new branding, then the thing is, branding or keyword is fine. That's one thing, but I'm thinking of it as a name, as something like something that I would call myself. Like, hi, welcome to the podcast. I'm Dave. I'm kind of getting sick of saying I'm Dave. Who the fuck is Dave? Unfortunately, a lot of people know, and if you're one of those people, I owe you so many apologies. But here I am, making a podcast about video games and movies and stuff. Sometimes, usually about Game of Thrones. Sometimes about audio engineering. I had some thoughts and things that I wrote down, and really all of these thoughts, if you are watching on YouTube, which I hadn't mentioned, but yeah, as most podcasts do, is also going on YouTube as raw video, but yeah, so, I mean, I guess it's not like anyone's going to see this, so I mean, you're spoilers if you're looking at my notes, but why I'm showing them to you is that they kind of, there's a lot of arrows pointing around into other places, which is sort of the flow of how I may or may not discuss the things I wrote down on here. But mainly these thoughts kind of were circling around. Wow, it almost, yeah, is this actually the central idea of all these things that I thought I might mention? That I should come on and talk about some of my favorite podcasts. This is an episode about podcasts. I mean, I do a lot of sitting around and listening to podcasts. Part of why I was like, I would like to actually, because I don't know, I guess, I mean, and there is a whole section on my Discord, which I was going to mention as part of the intro. If you want to, like, if you know me and you happen to be listening to this, and I've been reconnecting with a few people, I won't bring up any. I won't talk about fucking social media, but I have reconnected with some people, and they've come talk to me on Discord, which is my favorite place to. That is my comfort zone. That's my place where I socially am comfortable and will speak to people. Going out onto a social media site. I was about to just say it, but now that I've decided to do you the favor, listener, of not mentioning social media or any specific site. Anyway, wow. Where was I going with that? Oh, something about, oh yeah, Discord. I used to have a website. It was called koyadk.tv. There's probably nothing there now. I don't own it anymore. But I don't have, I guess I don't, yeah, I don't know how to recommend anyone to come and find me on Discord. Unless you find me on some other site first. That now I'm in it. Now it's like, now I'm married to it. Now I'm not going to tell you which social media site I told people to come to my Discord from. But I don't know. Go to my Twitch channel. Find me on Discord. I'm KoyaDK. I mean, I guess I never really was. KoyaDK was just something that happened that became my name because I had to drive through the Cuyahoga River Valley all the time. And I didn't know how to pronounce Cuyahoga. But it became, it was a Warcraft character, and with the DK added on, that just like that as a handle became, it's a handle. Like I don't like, yeah. I guess I'm old enough that I would always feel weird if I had to say, "Hey, I'm Dave 8342." You know, I'm Dave DK. It never first of all, it never felt like my name because it was a total bullshit internet persona for one thing. But it's also, that's not the name of a person. You don't call somebody Koya DK. So anyway, I feel like there was something in there I didn't wrap up, but I did have a few things I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to recommend some podcasts because yeah, we've sort of done it before on the Arts and Entertainment channel on my fine Discord, which you should come and talk to me through. Oh, also go to twitch.tv/KoyaDK and talk to me there because I'm also streaming again. Like I'm really, and that, yeah, did I start saying something about New Year's resolutions, which I never do, which I often do, but often I don't know. I'm not sure if I do them or not. I was kind of thinking about this earlier, but the past couple of years I was like, the past 2 Januaries for whatever reason. And I mean there is a sort of momentum to it. There's a sort of December and a November and an October of everything, isn't there? And always, and in fact, and the last 2 Decembers and this December, I was saying, I planned to be very boring. I had a lot of things going on. There were a lot of bills to pay. There were a lot of little things. It's December. Things are coming to close. I had to go to holiday parties. I did this like deal with the universe. I made a pledge to be a little more social, and it's kind of, yeah. Did I already talk about going on social media and talking to people? But anyway, I made it through December, and now in January, I'm fired up. I wanted to be boring, and it has been boring. And I guess that's what it is. There's like a foot and a half of snow. No one can go anywhere. Everything sucks. For 1,000 billion reasons. Everything is so terrible. So didn't that guy? Oh my god, I'm so sad that the first thing that comes to mind when I think of this character is what the first thing that comes to mind is. Yeah, isn't there a line from Rent about not exactly, or maybe it is that the opposite of war is in peace, it's creation. Maybe that's the line I'm looking for. It's just I can't I mean, shit. I mean, no one listens to this podcast, and I spend so much time censoring myself. But I can't believe that it's just impossible to talk about an actor or a celebrity without thinking of a sexual assault. So, and in this case, the actor I was thinking of was the recipient. I don't know why. I don't know why I had to point that out. I guess I'm not. I guess I felt I should make it clear that I'm not quoting a sexual assaulter. Let's move the fuck on. But boy, it's just impossible to talk about Hollywood these days without saying that. And also the desire to just like, there's an obligation, right? Like if you accidentally start talking about Kevin, you know who. It is Kevin, right? I hope I'm not incriminating anyone named Kevin. Boy, let's get off this topic. I was thinking about the Dark Tower. This is the thing. So going forward on this podcast, some things I want to talk about. Well, I kind of have two. We used to kind of. I used to call them units. Back when we were like actually covering chunks of things. You know, we had a Moby Dick unit, and there was a. David Lynch, of course. But anyway, and a bunch of other shit before that. And we will never do an Evangelion unit, and. Well, I'm not announcing anything yet, but yeah, I think. But that unit, so that unit still may or may not happen because the one that I want to do first is going to happen first, which is just about video games. Like that's that's nice, right? But yeah, a couple groups of things that I want to look at and that we're going to work our way through. And we'll see. I mean, as always, I reserve the right to go completely internet silent, as I did somewhere around March last year and remained so. Like, I don't think I turned my microphone on except to like, chat with people offline and talk to, offline as in not live, not published. So one of the central things that is on the Evangelion unit and, well, isn't. One of the central things that will be on the Evangelion unit is the Stephen King series of novels called The Dark Tower. In fact, maybe I'm about to delve right into a mini unit. Maybe I have two mini units here today. I am going to recommend 3 podcasts, and maybe I will talk about 3-ish bad movies. Not very much. Don't worry. Although one of the things as I was kind of chucking around ideas and when I started to feel antsy and like I should get back to creating in some form, even if no one sees it, I was thinking maybe, because I've done a whole series of shows and podcasts with the word talk in the title. This one doesn't have it, yeah, because this is a spinoff, but this is a spinoff of Maybe We'll Talk. Before that, it was People Still Talk. Before that, it was, and this one still might come back. Well, first of all, I have to get Thrash on some kind of recording because we haven't done that since a while. And, he was one of my original podcasting bros, so Thrash. We got to do some things. Obviously, I'm getting the team back together. I mean, the team's always kind of here. It's just whether or not I hit record. So, The Dark Tower? Yeah. So what I was saying, so I almost started a podcast called Let's Not Talk. where I was going to write like pre-scripted little terrible essays about how much I do not like certain things. And honestly, really the first 3 things, I mentioned 2 mini units here today. The first 3 things I was going to talk about on that podcast. One of them isn't even something I disliked. It was just something I felt like it was something I felt like I could write an essay about. And also that in that essay, I could explain how culture and society and art have come to an evolutionary dead end. The worst movie I've ever seen is not the Dark Tower movie, which is not something that we are. All right, which is other than right now, because I could. Both of these movies I'm about to mention. The third one is Venom: The Last Dance, which is like not even hateable. It's like I don't even know if it's supposed to, I mean, to an extent it's supposed to be terrible. But I was in awe of how much myself at 15 years old would have exploded with joy to have seen this movie. And I do think I could write a fuck. And maybe I will. All right, so all of this is maybe. Anyway, the absolute worst movie I've ever seen is called, I think it's called Alita Battle Angel. Pretty sure that's what the movie's called. It comes out wrong because it's backwards, because the book's called the other thing. Boy, I could talk and talk about that movie. Bumblebee is such a better movie. It has it shares an actor. The actor that plays Hugo is terrible. I could just go on and on. I swear to God, I could talk for 12 hours about how bad the Battle Angel movie is. It's disappointing to me on a personal level. It is indication that there is something wrong with this timeline or this zoo or this illusion or prison or whatever this thing they have us all in, which brings me to the Dark Tower, because we don't need to talk about that Battle Angel movie they made. That's what it's called. It's called That Battle Angel Movie They Made. Because why would they fucking make this fucking movie? I was fine about this movie. I feel like I was talking about The Phantom Menace the other day, and I don't think it really applies. I don't think it's a similar, I'm not even sure what the point. In fact, I think I've lost the point of whatever point I'm making now, other than that Battle Angel movie is very bad. Maybe someday I'll talk about it, but it won't be fun. It's not going to be like, that's what I'm saying. We'll talk about the Dark Tower, maybe not the whole series. Maybe we will. Oh, Jesus Christ. But like, if I get together with like Thrash or Book Club guys or Locke or Saint, and we're talking about the Dark Tower, it's going to be what's cool about it. And some of those people will not talk about these books with me, just to be clear. But yeah, where I'm wrapping up everything, every unfinished sentence for the past 5 or 10 minutes, talking about that Dark Tower movie they made in such a context would not be fun. Maybe someday I'll write an essay about why it is so terrible. Maybe I'll rewatch it. There is, as a matter of fact, there is an episode of a show called Thought That Was Weird. I can't believe I didn't find a link and shit first, but I'm not positive that it's on YouTube or anything. Thought That Was Weird is on YouTube. But there is an episode about the Dark Tower. Me and Thresh both watched it. So you can hear us, just very unstructured talk about it. But I could really, yeah, maybe I will. I could watch it again and take notes and explain why that movie is an indication that we absolutely are actually in the darkest timeline that we possibly could all end up in. Maybe not the darkest, but a bad one. Which let's not get too silly, as long as we're talking about timelines and other worlds and whatever. But The Dark Tower, if you do not know, is a meandering fantasy story that now I believe Stephen King his multiverse is just the Stephen King multiverse, and all of these guys end up in each other's TV shows and stuff, just, like that other multiverse that is popular. Excuse me. Wow. I also have to did I finish my coffee? I don't have when I don't have a guest, I can't I don't get a break to keep my notes so that I can finish my sentences and know what I'm talking about or thinking about. And also, I mean, you've heard me. I've been slurping some coffee. I'm going to finish it right now. So The Dark Tower is a series of books about a multiverse and about characters that, jump back and forth through different worlds, doing different things and go into the space between them. And And there are multiple timelines and many nearby timelines that are very similar, where, you know, different people's lives play out in different ways, and there are other worlds than these, and you know, that kind of thing. And it let's pretend that let's pretend that that sentence didn't just kind of get a flat tire and disappear on me. This is a lot harder when I'm trying to string whole thoughts together and also branching them off, and I'm not keeping notes in front of me to see where I'm going, and also not taking a break from fucking talking, so that, like, yeah, maybe I should stick to like one sentence and try to finish it and have an exact thought. The Dark Tower and yeah. So this movie, you know what? I really should have. I was going to do some research. And then I sat down and I sat down and I was like, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to say about all this shit on this piece of paper in front of me. I don't really have an outline. I've got a bunch of arrows pointing at different things. But I'm gonna hit record and I'm gonna fucking go. And because this is Maybe We Will Fire in Blood, there will be no editing, there will be no undos. We are gonna go and here it is. And thank you for listening. But yeah, I was saying all of that like just now. I was like, oh yeah. So earlier when I sat down, I wasn't even sure I was gonna be doing this right now. So I was just like, you know, fuck you. It was, you know, a challenge to myself. Hit record, start talking, and what I forgot to do is do some research about, thought that was weird, and also the actual timeline of the production of the Dark Tower movie, which is not going to be covered in the Evangelion unit, which we are never going to do. The movie went through so many, first of all, different people owning it. I think it ended up being a Bad Robot production. God, I mean, boy, Bad Robot has done some stinky things. This might be the stinkiest. And really, I could go into all the things about the actual movie that are bad, but just the production, not even the production. And there's a term I'm looking for, but just when people talk about things not going right while people are trying to get a movie made and it not happening. Production hell? Do I feel like I'm not? Development hell. That's what it is. The development of this movie was a big mess. It changed hands a lot of times. There were a lot of scripts. There were a lot of revisions. It kept going back and forth. Different things were announced for years and years. There were so many different scripts for this thing. There were so many things that could have happened. At one point, did Clint Howard's brother really make a movie about J.D. Vance? Jesus Christ. You can't even talk about Hollywood without thinking about a child molester. Is that slander or something? No one's going to hear this, but he's at least friends with a bunch of them, so who gives a shit? Clint Howard's brother at one point was going to make this Dark Tower, maybe 3 movies with also maybe a TV series running parallel with connections, and maybe other directors were talking about this as well. And anyway, after all of that, after all of the things that could have happened, the 90-minute piece of garbage, and here it is, forget it. We did it, leave us alone. After all the things that could have been and were announced and didn't end up being, the fact that we got that movie is an indication that like something is wrong at the core. The discs of these worlds are wobbling a bit, and the path that we are on may no longer be maybe a path into darkness. And and I think that the Dark Tower movie that they made is an indication that that's where we are. This all somehow... Oh, yeah, I'll tell you how this all has something to do with David Lynch. We did a Lynch... We did a Lynch unit on Maybe We'll Talk, the other podcast that I do, which is essentially this same podcast now. um, yeah, and you can go listen to it. And David Lynch is fucking my hero. And yeah, if you know me, you know that's how I feel about that. Where do I start talking about the Dark Tower and David Lynch? I guess because, yeah, there is something really insane in the Dark Tower books that I don't know if I like. I really don't know if I like. And I listened to 5 of these books. I don't know if you know about Song of Susanna, but it's strange and it lost me. I listened to 5.5 books of the Dark Tower, and I should just listen to the 7th one probably. I still don't know, and really, actually, the problem that I have with the Dark Tower is Song of Susanna. If you know about these books, you may be saying, "Oh, Dave, you don't like strange stories about possessed pregnant women who might begin to physically change race or not, or whose legs may be a different skin color than the rest of her, and while the demon that's possessing her comes out, she strips naked and crawls through the swamps and eats frogs to feed the chap growing inside of her. And then maybe she has to fully transform into the demon woman to give... Well, I don't like... Well, anyway, you may be saying that, but that's not what I dislike about Song of Susanna. I don't like the fact that Stephen King is there. I don't know. I almost don't recall hearing a lot of critiques or complaints. And I've I listened to, and again, we are going to talk about podcasts. One of them, which is exclusively a Stephen King podcast that I like a lot. But I don't recall any reviews of Song of Susanna, and I'm not really sure. And it's almost, I feel like it's not exactly a spoiler, but, and by the way, I mean, this podcast is always spoilers, is always beware of spoilers, but I don't know if it's considered a spoiler to explain what I'm about to explain, which is that Stephen King is in at least the last 2 books. And I mean, obviously, and I mean in the last 2 books as in he shows up as a character. There are Stephen King books that appear in the stories previous to that. But they go and meet him because they're traveling between different worlds. So there is Keystone Earth where Stephen King lives, and we can go see him. And why it's a Keystone Earth, or the Keystone Earth, it may not be, the phenomenon I'm about to describe may or may not be unique to Keystone Earth. It may be variations of this thing are happening in other worlds, but there is this aspect of the cosmos in these books, and there is like, there is a structure of how the different worlds are laid out, and there are rules and stuff I haven't gone into. There are doors that go between places, and there's a dark tower at the center of it, at the center of it, and it's almost like the level, and I'm going to get some of this wrong right now, but it's something like the levels of the tower are more like different timelines or alternate versions of your world, and then like the different worlds go out on a spoke, but also like the main fantasy. Anyway, okay, yeah. The tower is an end world, which I guess is not the center of the... okay, so I don't know. But there's all of that stuff. There's a very laid out cosmology is what I'm saying. And part of that cosmology is something called the Song of the Turtle. And like, I'm not saying I don't like it. I love these books. They're awesome. This aspect of it is really interesting. That's why I'm here talking about it today. I'm just not too sure about it. And this is going to bring me back to that stupid Dark Tower movie they made, as well as David Lynch, a lot. So, what the Song of the Turtle is in the Dark Tower series is very literally a song that, I mean, maybe it's not singing. Well, anyway, it is the thoughts or the psychic eminence or whatever of a giant spirit turtle out in the cosmos that is projecting this story of Earth and other planets and existence out into the universe. It's singing the song of creation. Kind of like I learned about Demballa a little more recently. Demballa is the guy that lets Chucky come back to life. That's the serpent of creation. And I don't know if there's a song. Anyway, so the Song of the Turtle, certain unique people, it's definitely on Keystone Earth and maybe other places, but certain unique people like Stephen King, according to this text, and J.K. Rowling are the first two that come to mind. There's definitely some other ones. Stan Lee, for sure. There are Doombots in the Dark Tower. Certain authors and creative people on Earth can hear the Song of the Turtle, and they can hear, reflections of these other worlds where these things are actually happening. And so those writers write these stories in our world, and also that is how those stories are able to exist and continue. Like, here's the big spoiler, is that Roland, the hero of the Dark Tower, eventually has to go and save Stephen King's life so that he can keep writing the Song of the Turtle, so that Roland's story can continue. It's insane. It's masturbatory. I love Stephen King. It's deranged. But so if I did an okay job of explaining that, yeah, the fantasy world reflects our world, and our writers are writing the fantasy world, and it's a loop. Both have to happen, and both will happen forever, and Roland will always go to the tower, and the tower is Roland. To see a living frame for one more picture. So, that's very silly. And I have a lot of strange, meandering thoughts about our own world, obviously, if I'm talking about how a movie is an indication that we are in the worst timeline. And I don't really feel like it's likely. I mean, I am very interested in the power of myth and storytelling, and that is a lot about what I talk about all the time and am here to talk about. But I don't, it wouldn't, I'll tell you, this is how I'm going to put it. It wouldn't quite jive with me that there is perhaps a way that certain creative people are tapping into something really true and really real about our spiritual reality. I would not think that was the case if it were not for the films of David Lynch. Like, one of the things I sat down to talk about today is the fact that thinking about David Lynch in the context of The Dark Tower has made me frightened that I will go to Eraserhead when I die. that when I die and go to hell, it will be fucking Eraserhead. Because something about so much of Lynch's stuff taps in to something so lizard brain and primal. And 2 years ago, doing the Lynch unit, I talked about transcendental meditation, and I talked about doing some research and finding out about that and maybe trying out. And guess what? I never did. And maybe I should, and maybe if I'm going to keep talking about this shit, which I'm not really going to that much, but there is, yeah. And I guess, boy, did I want to, I am talking about all of this for a very specific reason. We are getting to podcasts that I'm going to recommend, but part of this is the Evangelion unit, because one of the things that is so real and so David Lynch and so frightening to me is the endless black ocean that appears at the bottom of a tower in Twin Peaks, somewhere in our consciousness or in some spiritual level of something going on in that story. An endless black ocean that appears, well, in Evangelion, and a whole list of other stories and properties and things that may become the Evangelion unit, but Yeah, that ocean at the bottom of the tower and thinking about David Lynch really bothers me. But if we are in a world, if there is any type of way, and I have, maybe not on this podcast, but plenty of you have talked to me about, you know, whether or not reality exists and what I think about it and what else is going on. Um, yeah, I wish I knew how that sentence was going to end, but something about David Lynch and some like real truth lurking like behind so much of his work. At the same time, I don't want this to be a world where he has accidentally seen through the veil and is presenting us with the truth, but also it just would make so much sense to me. I would just if I accidentally, how you hear about, sometimes someone looks down the wrong alleyway or they're trying too hard to look into one spirit world and they accidentally look into another. If I accidentally like looked through the veil and saw some industrial David Lynch Eraserhead nightmare grinding away on the other side of it, I would think to myself, great. I don't have to worry about that anymore. That is what's just over there. That's kind of what I thought. On top of a black ocean that we will all return to. I didn't mean to start, getting weird and stuff. I gotta try to stop starting my sentences, like coming like back from I come back hot sometimes when I've wound down or when someone else is talking. I don't know. Like I said, this is a podcast about the process of learning how to make podcasts. Something about all of that and the song of the turtle and Stephen King. I listened to a podcast about a movie called Monkey Bone. Should we just... Yeah, let's just get into this. Let's just talk about Monkey Bone and Shallow Hal real quick. Is this the same? You know what? I don't know I don't know who... Honestly, I'm going to say something about a movie called Shallow Hal, and I have no idea if it's true, and I have no idea who told it to me, and I might be making it up, and... Anyway, I listened to a podcast about a movie called Monkey Bone from the 90s where Brendan Fraser, I did not know this. I think I was vaguely aware that Monkey Bone was a cartoon character that was a creation of Brendan Fraser's character. I did not know that the monkey was literally the personification of his boner. That like it was a fantasy cartoon he had drawn where his boner comes to life and is a monkey. And maybe it's just like his, obviously it embodies his sex drive and it wants to do horny things, but the cartoon is about him talking to his embodied monkey boner. But anyway, so what happens in this movie is that this guy, Brendan Fraser, gets into a coma. And I guess, again, just like I wasn't positive about some of the other stuff happening in the Dark Tower, I think that what happens is that while he's in the coma, somehow the Monkey Bone, the monkey creature character, he does interact with with Monkey Bone, the character that he created, because he goes to a world where all of these creations of humanity are real, because it's a little similar to what I'm talking about in the Dark Tower. And Monkey Bone may or may not get to go back to Earth as Brendan Fraser, but such things are possible because when he is down there, he meets Stephen King, and Stephen King reveals this blew my mind. Because this is all of this shit. I didn't even know where I was going when I started talking about this a half an hour ago. I have various, things kind of jotted, as you saw with arrows and stuff pointed around. And I kind of, Yeah, I thought all of this had to do with podcasts, and it kind of does, because all of these thoughts came from me listening to a podcast about Monkey Bone. I will tell you what podcast it was. I will talk all about the podcast. Like, we're saving that for the next mini unit, which is after these. Which really, we talked about the movies I don't like. Now we're talking about Monkey Bone and Shallow Hal. But anyway, who cares? Thank you for listening. If you're really just following along, I've got a list of things I had thoughts about while I was thinking about Monkey Bone, and we finally got into Monkey Bone. The part in Monkey Bone. I've not seen this movie. It was described to me on a podcast, but I guess while he is in the underworld in a coma, the main character meets Stephen King. And like I said, it would have been possible for the fictional character Monkey Bone to take Brendan Fraser's body and go to the real world. Stephen King tells Brendan Fraser that Cujo took his body and that Stephen King on Earth is inhabited by Cujo, the dog. So Cujo the dog wrote the last 3 books in the Dark Tower series, which means this. We don't have to worry about any of this Song of the Turtle bullshit. That wasn't even Stephen King. That was his fucking dog. I got a real kick out of this. And I don't know why Shallow Hal is written down here really, but I guess part of that is like, I was so surprised to hear about a lot about, first of all, that I didn't know. Like that, as far as I'm concerned, that's canon. When I listen to those books again, I'm going to figure out how to make it work in my head that after the car crash, which is what, I don't know if I mentioned that's what Roland has to save Stephen from in the end of the book. Stephen, oh wait. In the books, he gets saved from the car crash, which means in the books he doesn't become Cujo. But if our Stephen King is Cujo, Cujo's writing a happy ending for Stephen King, where Stephen never has to become Cujo, the one writing it. Does Cujo get to Earth and realize the horror of being a man, and he sits down, he has to write, he's filled. The first thing that Cujo wrote was Dreamcatcher. This is making so much sense. Holy shit. So if Cujo gets to Earth and writes Dreamcatcher, he's like, oh shit, this isn't as easy as it looked. And then suddenly, the horror of being a man, he realizes that he has to make up for it by writing these books that erase his existence, because Stephen King never goes into a coma and never becomes Cujo, who wrote the last 3 books of the Dark Tower. 4 books, because there is an 8th sort. It's not real. I don't think it's not sequential. I don't think they call it the 8th book, but there isn't. Anyway, at one point there were 19, like 7 books plus however many make 19 plus 12, kind of circling. But now, like I was saying, I'm pretty sure it's just the Stephen King multiverse. But never having heard that little tidbit of Monkey Bone, it reminded me of this story about the movie Shallow Hal. And like all the other things I described so far, I have no idea if what I'm about to say about this movie is accurate. This is someone told me that the plotline of I was surprised that this is what the plotline of Shallow Hal is. If you're aware, Shallow Hal is a movie where Jack Black gets some kind of curse. Well, I'm trying to think of like how it was, because I'm trying to think of how it was marketed or what the spoiler-free version of the story is. But anyway, who cares? If you probably know what fucking Shallow Hal is. Jack Black meets a girl. Well, he's got a curse, so he's going to see people the way he's going to see their inner selves and not how they look on the outside. So the joke is he meets this very beautiful girl, but the joke is that she's incredibly fat, and he's going around doing, I don't know, he's like in a canoe and she weighs too much, so he's like propped up out of the water, you know? I'm not even positive how the movie presents the joke. Like, I don't know if it shows like him with the pretty girl and then it shows like what's happening and like, you know, something different is happening and with the fat girl and it's funny. That's probably basically what the joke is. But anyway, the girl works at the hospital, and while he's courting her, he keeps going to visit her at the hospital. She's working with these kids. You probably know what I shouldn't tell you there's going to be a punchline because now you know what it is. But she's working with these kids, and he goes and visits them. During the movie, he's taking her on dates, and he's making friends with these kids that she works with. And I guess in the end of the movie, he gets uncursed, and he goes down to the hospital to look for her. And like, I guess either the child's back is to the camera or off camera, but someone says, "Yo, Hal, what's up?" And like, he looks down and he's like, he doesn't recognize the kid, and he says like, "Oh, do I know you?" And she's like, "It's Lisa, it's me." It's like one of the kids he knows. And like, you still haven't seen the kid's face. This is what I was told. I was told that in this moment, Hal looks up and the camera pans up, and the place he's been hanging out with the children, there's a sign that says severe burn unit. I can't believe I'm laughing now, or how much I laughed when someone explained this to me. But I don't know, someone might have made that up. I do have a friend that I'm pretty sure sometimes makes up the plots of movies that he knows I'll never see, and then tells them to me to see if I'll repeat them to other people. So this could be that case. Funnily enough, this is the person I was mentioning on the podcast last night that sometimes I have funny conversation with. So Monkey Bone, Cujo, The Song of the Turtle, David Lynch. God damn, man. The fucking... I think there's going to be a Twin Peaks The Return viewing coming up for me and some of my compatriots again, because goddamn, I recommend that so much. Even if you just watch The Return. I mean, I honestly don't know. I don't know if you need to watch seasons 1 and 2 or the movie or anything else. It's certainly less impactful if you don't watch all of that other stuff. But season 3, Twin Peaks: The Return, is incredible. Okay, so Shallow Hal. So yeah, that was How Did This Get Made, which I assume like everyone knows about. That's like the most mainline podcast. And I'm going to recommend some podcasts because I feel like I don't, and I feel like people don't. I feel like when people are like, "Hey, here's some movies that are good that you might not know of," except you probably know about How Did This Get Made. That's the thing. That one is like I don't even mention that to people when they talk about what podcast are you listening to, because I assume that. But if you don't, I mean, it's great. It's got Paul Scheer and Jason Mantzoukas and. Her name's Raphael, and it's spelled weird. I can't believe it. Of course, I forget the name of the female host. June Diane Raphael. It's very funny how that name is spelled. Not to make fun of the lady, now that I fucking forgot her name after the two men. But Jason Mantzoukas is some bit of a running joke among some people that I know. Anyway, so that was how I learned about that thing with Cujo. And yeah, it was definitely discussed with on that episode appeared Griffin Newman from Blank Check with Griffin and David, which is also awesome, which I'll talk about in a moment. But Griffin Newman appeared, and he was talking about, I believe they probably did talk about the Cujo thing, because they talked another tiny little exchange about Stephen King, because it had been mentioned earlier in the show. I'm pretty sure it was Mantzoukas asked Griffin, "Is it possible to have sex with Christine the car?" And the assurity and authority and certainty with which Griffin Newman replied, "Yes," knocked me out of my seat. I was laughing so hard. And that's canon, as far as I'm concerned. If anyone asks me that, I'm saying yes. And if I need to cite a source, it's Griffin Newman. Blank Check is my favorite podcast. When I really decided that I was going to sit down and actually recommend some podcasts, it was because it was yesterday morning, Sunday morning, which is my Sunday morning ritual has become. I don't want to say, my Sunday morning church observance, some type of church-like ritual, because, if you go to church on Sunday mornings, that's fine. That's not But I do, but I do think of it as my day of rest and my weekly observance of sitting alone in the morning, drinking my coffee, smoking a pipe, and listening to Blank Check with Griffin and David. Um, so yeah, all of this shit that I have said for the past 50 minutes has been because so. Yeah, if you don't know, that's a podcast. Again, a lot of this is a very popular podcast, so you might know. But it's a podcast about filmographies. Filmmakers that may have success early on in their careers, given a series of blank checks to make whatever kind of passion projects they want. Sometimes those check bounce, something like that. But they go through a whole filmographies of directors that kind of seem like they got away with it. You know what I mean? And their unit on, and in fact, yeah, their unit on David Lynch is the reason that I started listening to their show. And I've been listening to it since, and I am still listening to the back catalogs on Saturday afternoons or whenever I'm sitting around doing nothing also. So I'm going to be listening. So because it's an old podcast that's been going on forever. So that's awesome. I really enjoy it. And also really long episodes, which is fun, which I like it when I accidentally do really long episodes too. Going to be talking to Buddha later today, I think. And I don't know if that's gonna, again, I don't know what I'm doing with any of my projects, but I'm doing stuff. I'm here, I'm on Twitch, I'm on YouTube. Thanks for being here. Blank Check with Griffin and David is excellent. How Did This Get Made is excellent. And also the Ranged Touch family of podcasts, which I believe I started listening to Games Study Buddies, but Just King Things is a podcast by Ranged Touch where they read the novels of Stephen King in publication order and review them, and it's great. And I should go listen to the Song of Susanna one to see what they thought about the Song of the Turtle. Yeah, and they also do Ranged Touch also does Shelved by Genre, which is great. I recommend all 3 of those, and also I guess all 5 of those. Shelved by Genre is doing a unit on Tolkien right now. It's really entertaining. I love to listen to people talk about trolls and goblins. I had a boss. Man, it doesn't even matter that he was my boss, because he was my peer, because we were all just like a gang of idiots working at this store. And but you ever have a guy that just like he was into like whatever weird shit we were into? He liked, fantasy, not fantasy. But we would talk about, Star Wars or whatever dumb shit, or action movies or whatever the fuck video games we were into. But this dude did not like anything fantasy. He did not like Magic the Gathering. He did not like World of Warcraft. He did not like us to talk about it. And what he would say is, I don't like trolls. Just nonstop. That was every time. We were like, oh, Jeff, what's wrong? Oh, I don't like trolls. Man, I did so good not saying anyone's full name, I think. Well, I didn't say anyone's full name. But I was trying not to, talk about... There were certain things I was trying not to say that I did say anyway on this episode of this podcast where I'm by myself. So Range Touch, before they did the J.R.R. Tolkien unit, they were doing Alan Moore, which was also incredible. Go listen to that. Go listen to Shelved by Genre's unit on Alan Moore from last year. Listen to, God, was it last year or was it 2024 that Blank Check was doing Lynch? Go listen to my unit on Lynch over on Maybe We'll Talk, and also listen to my unit on Moby Dick. Listen to all my stuff. Come and see me on twitch.tv/KoyaDK. If you go there, you can definitely find a link to my Discord and then talk to me there. And I'm around. I'll be talking to other people and talking about other things. Yeah, that list of dark things involving a dark black ocean at the bottom of consciousness. It probably won't be called the Evangelion unit. It might be called the Prim. That's what it's called in the Dark Tower books. The Prim. That unit might be called the Prim. But first, we're going to talk about some video games that I think are very important. Some of which feature a dark black ocean at the bottom of consciousness and a hole in the center of the world, slowly getting wider. Yeah, stay tuned. Talk to you next time. Thank you.